You should be able to translate it to a 10-year-old and then you're good. And not to say that everyone you're communicating to and that executives are at a 10-year-old level, but if you can get a 10-year-old to understand, I promise you can get a C-level to understand.
Welcome to the CNL Podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of IT and security professionals to uncover their experiences, challenges, and best practices in today's ever-evolving tech landscape. I'm your host, Sedric Lusant, also known as your cyber expert, and I'm thrilled to welcome Zakkery Gage, Senior IT Manager at American Association for Precision Leadership. Thanks for joining us today, Zakkery. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right, just peachy. Just like I was telling you before, I can't complain. But we could, but what good would that do, right?
Right there with you. And it's the start of a new week. So new week, new things.
Exactly. Here on a fresh Monday. Do you have any exciting plans over the weekend you got to do?
No, it was a very low-key weekend. It was very, very nice and much needed.
Oh man, I feel you. Pretty much same here. Other than some other events that popped up, that was very unfortunate, but won't get into that. But let's start off. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you got started in the world of IT?
Yeah, so I actually think I took a pretty standard path starting out, literally at Geek Squad at Best Buy. Then
I used to look up to you guys. I was a kid. I was like always got to come in and install the new tech.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely a good job. I looked out with a great manager that taught me a lot of good things, and then from there went into standard desktop support, and then systems administration, systems engineering, cloud engineering, and then into leadership. So I'd say it's a pretty standard path. Like I said, I'm about 15 years out of high school and into my career. So systems and cloud have been my bread and butter, systems mostly being VMware, Microsoft tech stack from top to bottom, Azure from a cloud perspective, virtualization. And then cybersecurity has always kind of been a secondary role of mine in every company I've been in, because excluding 2 of like my 9 jobs I've had in my career, for small, medium business. So it's where IT's wearing multiple hats. And so
you're cutting your teeth on a lot of different technologies, putting out a lot of different buyers.
Exactly. So cybersecurity has just always been tangential, whether it be in the infrastructure security, direct malware prevention, phishing testing, end user training, all that sort of stuff. So that's the high level overview. Can dive deeper anywhere you want me to from a career perspective.
Yeah. So I would like to dive a little bit deeper. Was there like a specific event or, a certain influencer that inspired you to go towards this field?
Well, I actually feel like I had a cheating advantage. I watched my dad transition from construction into IT. He now works for Microsoft as a pretty senior project manager. And so watching him in the transition, he trained me on computers from real young. Like I remember it was my 8th Christmas. He gave me every component to a computer and said, build it, figure it out. Right. So it's one of those things where I just kind of had that advantage. I remember like troubleshooting my Windows 2000 and XP machines. Whenever they, have gaming issues or things like that at his house. Take your kid to work day, same thing. Then my brother actually was the first person in my family to get a degree, and he got it in IT, and he made that transition as well. So like I said, I feel like I had like a cheating advantage, and so I was able to hit the ground running pretty good.
That's awesome. I kind of felt the same way for a little bit because, my stepfather, he was a network engineer. And I remember he was working for CenturyLink at the time. He took us to take your kid to work day, me and my little sister. I was like, 13 at the time. And all I could just see him doing was I'm sitting next to him. All I saw was a terminal. I didn't really understand, like, what was he doing? What was he doing all day long? It was like, oh, this is boring. I want to go eat pizza and go play with the ping pong table. And it kind of shunned me away from wanting to do an IT type job because I just didn't understand at the time. I didn't understand there was so many different fields and facets that you could actually be doing behind that computer screen. So, I ended up not right after high school. I was like, I want to go work with my hands and be a tech in the field. And then eventually, I was like, I want to sit behind the computer like how he was with PC.
Yep.
And work from there. Yeah, it's kind of nice. But I always felt like I kind of had, a little bit of a leg up to see, just the fruits of the labor of my stepfather being able to provide for us the way he did, and just the flexibility that he had with work. So I definitely was a believer when I saw there was like this, I forgot what TV show it was, but I saw this person that was hacking. They didn't even have a high school degree. They were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and I was like, if I could do a percentage of that, I'll be happy. And I set out to become a hacker, and I think I'm doing pretty good for myself.
Very nice.
But well, that's awesome. So, is there any challenges that you faced while you were trying to break into the field, and also climbing the ladder to the senior IT manager?
Breaking into it, no. So kind of piggybacking off of my cheating advantage comment, I didn't really like standard school, if you will. So my senior year of high school, I went to a vocational school, got my A+ certification while I was still in high school. That led to an internship while I was still in high school. So like, and then Geek Squad, and then that led to like my first corporate job was actually for IBM. So breaking in was actually pretty easy for me, but climbing is where I had the difficulty. And I think I hit a pretty common snag. So like I mentioned, my dad was like my cheating advantage from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
My mom was my cheating advantage in climbing the ladder, actually. So because her background is all management, HR, finance.
Mm-hmm.
And technical people tend to think that their technical skills will carry them. But it will not.
It's the soft skills.
Exactly. It's the soft skills, the interaction, and also understanding business, right? Because one of my big philosophies is at the end of the day, technology is created to make everybody's life easier, right? So usually IT or cybersecurity, it's just a cost center, right? You're just either a prevention mechanism or you're an efficiency lever. And so if you're not making other people make more money, and you're not preventing issues, then you're not doing your job and you're just bleeding the company from a revenue perspective. And so absorbing that concept and understanding how IT actually impacts the revenue cycle and everybody else's quality of life, that was like the game changer. That was like an uphill battle for me 100%. And it was very interesting. I avoided leadership for the longest time. Like very early in my career, people pointed me out as leaders and I was like, nope, I will be your number two. Yeah. I was like, I'll be your senior guy. I'll be your expert, your number two. Do not make me play politics. I don't want to. I want to avoid it. I like computers, ones and zeros, black and white. But when I shifted that mindset of understanding that my job is actually to increase quality of life, that was actually the mindset that then made me want to do leadership, because that's also what leadership is. Right. And now you get to affect more lives than you can on your own, because you are responsible for the people that report to you. So like in an indirect way, you get to impact exponentially more lives, because everybody that's beneath you, you're the responsible for the lives that they're impacting and that they're making better. And so that's what made me switch over to the leadership realm. And yeah, I have definitely had a multitude of frustrations and beating head against the wall when it comes to the business and communication side throughout the years. And then finally, it just kind of slowly clicked. And I mean, obviously, I'm a senior manager at the moment, director-ish level type role. So I'm not done learning yet, right? Like I still don't know entirely what separates me from that real director or a VP or even the executive level. Like I do want to be at the C level. That is my end game result. I don't know if I'll ever be a CEO of an organization, but I do know I think I fit somewhere between like a number 2 to number 5 on the totem pole. That's where I think I'll drive my most value. But yeah, and it's just both fortunately and unfortunately, the soft skills matter so much more than just your technical capabilities.
So, while we're on that, what do you think are some of the most important skills professionals in the IT space need to develop? Is it just the soft skills?
So I think that those are the lesser known, right? Like it's very easy to map out, I think, a technical path, between certifications, or even honestly, like right now, leveraging AI to almost up your game without the education side, right? Like you can have it augment you and teach you. So the technical skills, I think, is easy to map out for most people. I think where people struggle is how to map out the communication skills. And I don't know that there's a map for that. I think it's a level of trial and error, because unfortunately your soft skills have to be tuned to your audience, and your audience changes every company, or if your leaders swap, right? So it's a truly never ending journey, just like the technical side. And so, but I would start with the fact of two things. One is understanding how IT impacts the bottom line and being able to communicate that. And then the second thing is being able to translate technical nonsense into something that anybody can understand. Like you should be able to translate it to a 10-year-old and then you're good. And not to say that everyone you're communicating to and that executives are at a 10-year-old level, but if you can get a 10-year-old to understand, I promise you can get a C level to understand. So it's just going to that extreme standpoint. I think those would be the two skills that I would point out, that if you can, the sooner you can learn those, they'll pay for themselves tenfold in the long run.
Yep, yep. And that's some of the same things that I try to tell any of my students that I mentor. They get in the field. You can have all the technical skills that in the world, but if you just like a lot of people, they come, they want to be pen testers, right? And I train them up, but it sounds like all that having fun on the network means nothing if you can't communicate and articulate the risk in a manner that is clear, where leadership all the way down to the technical folks can understand what do they need to do immediately to address this, and where does it stand on that severity totem pole.
Exactly. Yep. No, you definitely need to be able to speak in layman's terms about what you do.
So could you tell us a little bit about what your current organization does?
Yeah, so AAPL is a awesome and fascinating organization. So we are actually in the education space, is really the best way to phrase it. So physicians, meaning healthcare providers, they only ever get technical training. Actually, speaking of exactly what we were just talking about. For all the way through their doctorate, the residency, and future degrees, they are only trained on their medical specialty. They are never trained on finance, negotiation, budget, communication, etc. And so that leaves a very big hole in the healthcare space, to where if people are going from being hands-on into the business and leadership aspect, there's a huge gap that ends up making them not successful. Or on the flip side, you end up having people who are zero healthcare, zero physician related, and they're the ones leading the hospital. And then they can't make educated decisions because they don't understand the industry. So we are meant to bridge that gap, where we are providing leadership training to physicians to help them move up in their careers to that administrative business level for the healthcare systems and hospitals, training in a variety of different credentials. And we're partnered with multiple universities and things of those nature. And so that's what we do. And we have an online LMS and offer membership and individual courses and packages and bundles for physicians.
Awesome. And for our listeners that don't know what an LMS is, I'm assuming Zach's referring to a learning management system.
Absolutely. You are correct. Yes.
All right. Awesome. So could you tell me a little bit, what does a typical day look like for you in your current role as senior IT manager over there?
Yeah. So this role was a big shift for me. So as I mentioned in my career, I took a very traditional IT path. I now am overseeing software development and product creation. So it's a very different set of personalities and technical skills that I now oversee. But I think it really works towards my path of executive, where I think most executives in the technology space for small, medium companies are overseeing development, product creation, and traditional IT infrastructure. So my day-to-day right now is kind of that. Because there is no in-house traditional IT, I am responsible for the Azure infrastructure, the Azure architecture and implementation. Then on the flip side, I'm also responsible for the project management, software development lifecycle, and the growth paths of the individual contributors within the department and the software development level. So I kind of split those two roles, providing IT benefit to the company for the first time, and then also am more in that day-to-day project management operations of the software side of the equation. So any given day really could just be standard project management, check-ins, roadblock clearing, working with the business to make sure budget, timelines, et cetera, are there. Or it can be saying, hey, we need to consolidate our data to an Azure data factory and have that translated over to a Power BI environment. And I'd be the one doing that. So I'm kind of a hybrid leadership and still hands-on role at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Now, is there a favorite tool or technology that has transformed how you approach IT?
Oh man,
honestly, I know when I ask some people, they usually bring up, the cloud, where we used to have to deal with on-prem, and now it's all with the click of a button.
Like that would, I think, be the obvious one, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna pick AI at this point, and specifically, specifically, I'm gonna go ChatGPT and Claude. Those are the two primary ones I use, and Claude being Anthropic, and I use them for individual things. So I think Claude is by far way more superior when it comes to technical solutions and like actually making you level up into technical skills you don't possess or understanding architectures and designs you don't understand. I think ChatGPT is much better on the soft skill communication side. It's much better on the people side with I always mess up the acronyms. Is it the RAG implementation where it kind of learns everything over your entire history, where Claude is a little bit more siloed in scope. So it kind of depends on what my business use case is. But definitely in the last, not just at AAPL, but even my previous role, I'd say in the last 2 to 3 years, since ChatGPT's release, I've been slowly using it more more and more. And I've had it help me with process implementation, adoption of technologies. And I've also had it help me with technical solutions. I mentioned the Azure Data Factory thing just in a whim. I literally had Claude walk me through, for the most part, how to implement an Azure Data Factory synchronization, implementation, and manipulation, because I'd never done it. So I went from zero to full implementation in 3 weeks because of Claude. Like I couldn't have done that if it was without AI. So I'd say that's the big thing, is it's really making me appear smarter, but actually, it also makes me learn a lot more, because I'm one of those people where I don't use AI to just do it, but I will then ask it, why is that the best solution? What am I missing, right? And actually converse about it so that I am also actually getting smarter all along the way too, not just simply, hey, it's relying me plus AI.
Yeah. No, you don't want to just rely on it. You need to always double check and understand the nooks and crannies of the fine minutiae details, right? Because otherwise, then if you're just relying on the tool, it's one of the OWASP top 10 right now for AI. Is if you're just relying on the tool, what's to say if I feed poison that data set that you're relying on and you're operating off of that now you're not doing my bidding, or just accomplishing the goals that I want to make you unproductive, or operating off of a different page per se.
No, exactly, 100%.
But I can definitely agree. Actually, same thing for me. AI has been like the best thing since sliced bread. Things that used to take me weeks to debug and come up with, now I'm doing in minutes and in days. Like it's so many use cases. Like for some of my hacking tools, using it to help me develop customized hacking tools or scripts to just automate tedious processes that I'm constantly doing, whether it just be from simple bash scripts or to full-on Python scripts to just help automate a super tedious manual process. Or just being able to understand and look at anything and just know that, hey, if I want to automate this or do or tweak this or do something custom with it, a plug into their API, I don't have to. I'm no longer spending days figuring it out. I just got to figure out the logic of how to pull down what I need, feed it to ChatGPT, tell them I need to do this, and put the logic in place for that. But yeah, definitely I could agree with that. So let's kind of switch gears back to, we started touching on advice. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice at the beginning of your career, what would that be, Zach?
Oh man, should it be specifically for me, or should it be a more generally applicable?
Both.
Okay, so the specific one for me, I ended up taking a 2-year hiatus, and I did it in 2014 to 2016, right when the cloud adoption boomed. And that set my career back years. Literally, when I came back, I had a 40% pay cut, and it took me 5 years to get back to the pay and seniority I was at for a 2-year break. So not a great trade-off. And so to translate that one to general, and I'll do an actual general one too. If you're going to take a break or you're going to make a pivot, do it intelligently. Don't do it in the middle of a big transformation of your industry, because it'll just set you back. And I think that's no matter what you're in. You know what I mean?
You're only as good as your skills, right? If your skills get stale, it is what it is.
100%. So that would be my big thing for me personally. In terms of a general one, I would say spend the first 5 years of your career figuring out what you're capable of. And what I mean by that is most people focus on work-life balance. I'm going to say that's BS. I hope that acronym isn't too much for the podcast here.
You're good. You're good.
I think most people should focus on work-life integration. And really figuring out what your red line capabilities are. Can you pull off 16 hours a day for 6 days a week? Or is it 10 or is it 12? And what applications and systems can you use to make you accomplish more and do more, but figure out what your actual limits are? Because then once you know your constraints of your time, your effort, and your energy, or your family or relationships, once you know those constraints that are non-negotiable or you can't cross that boundary, then now you can build systems within that to only make you better and more refined as you progress in your career. So I think the earlier you figure out your boundaries, the better. So push yourself in your 20s. At the same time, it's low health risk. It's low life risk. You don't own assets yet. You don't have generally family or kids. And if you do, then maybe just bring a little bit more conservative approach to what I'm saying. Don't just go all out, but understanding those and figuring out what that looks like, I think just sets you up for that 5 to 15 or 5 to 20 year gap of where most people stall out. You know what you're capable of, and you can build systems to just keep that progress and actually make that curve an exponential growth.
Fair enough. Definitely can understand that, because I'm a big proponent of the same thing. I used to think this is the work-life balance, right? But it's like you said, and I love the way you put it, work-life integration and finding what's your red line, because that's the exact process I've had to go throughout my career.
Yeah.
With my personal relationships, with my wife, as a father, as a brother, as a son, as a coach, as a professional mixed martial arts fighter. I didn't tell you before, but I'm also an MMA fighter. So
Okay.
I got a lot of irons in the fire, and it's just finding a way to integrate. I'm choosing the areas that I can redline in, and as I'm getting kind of burnt out in one area, I go to the next area so I can regenerate in the other area while
Yep.
still continuing to push the metal in another. Right. So like when I'm super beat up from the gym, I'm at the computer resting up. I'm not doing really anything physically straining. I'm rest up. I'm good. I'm back in the gym. So it's
Yep.
always back and forth thing. So I can definitely understand that. So next question, what's one tech myth or misconception that you've heard that's always made you laugh?
Tech
Like,
misconception.
yeah, like for me, people tell me, don't you have to be super smart and have a degree to work with computers and IT? And I'm like, you have to have the willingness to learn. You don't have to have a degree.
Yeah.
You got to put the work in, but you don't. That computer science mandatory requirement that people used to think from the early whatnot. It's not really relevant these days anymore.
No, not at all. I think I'm gonna piggyback on that because I do. The one that I always say is people don't realize that IT people are just sophisticated end users, right? Especially now that I'm overseeing more of the software development side, and you realize that they actually create what IT people use, right? So like they're the true creators. But even usually cybersecurity professionals, you might be modifying your tool set, but a lot of times you're still using similar tools, right? Metasploit, Kali Linux, like you're using pre-built stuff that you are then modifying on top of it. You're not necessarily building things from scratch. Now, if you're on the black hat side of the equation, okay, fine, right? You're trying to be innovative so that you can not be caught and actually be aggressive and make the change. Gray hats, I also think, are trying to be pretty innovative. I tend to find a lot of the white hat side, not so much, right? Like they're almost like too good sometimes. Good meaning actually like human hearted and moral to be truly innovative and think ahead of what a bad actor would do. So I think that's the biggest misconception about anybody that's in technology but not a software developer is we're all just sophisticated end users. And the only reason we seem smart is because we're trained in it. But at the same time, could we go and do finance for a Fortune 500 company? Absolutely not. Right. So like they're smart to us. Right. We are just end users like everybody else. We just happen to put technology together. That's it. And we have generally either some training or lots of trial and error and beating your head against the wall to get to where you are.
Or both.
Yes, exactly. And so that, it is not an intelligence thing. It's also not a pure science. It's not ones and zeros or X's and Y's. There's a lot of artistry in IT, especially on cybersecurity. Like I think cybersecurity is probably the most artistic form of IT there is. But yeah, so it's also not this just purely logic brained black and white scenario either. So though, yeah, I think those would be the two that I would go to is we're just sophisticated end users, and it's definitely all an artistic science, not just science.
Gotcha. Definitely can agree with that. Yeah, because at the end of the day, even like IT management software, it's just end users that need a certain bit of functionality. We define these requirements, and the software engineers are going off and building that for us, so that we can then go use. And if we find any bugs or need any more functionality, we're coming back and saying, "Hey, we need more.
Exactly.
Code us some more." But I could definitely feel you on like kind of on how the black hats and gray hats they kind of have to be innovative because most of our tools are now becoming so advanced that it's picking up on any Metasploit basic payloads or any heavily signatured malware that's been out there. Even though it's called malware, but malware that can be used for good in a white hat scenario, right? It has been heavily signatured, and a lot of AV vendors are picking up on that. So you gotta build your own stuff, and that's where I'm seeing like tools like Claude and ChatGPT are coming in to play and helping even script kiddies build polymorphic malware that's just changing their signature on the fly. It's like that's crazy. But yeah, man, it's definitely for me is the best things to slice bread. I'll keep saying that. But so when you're not behind a keyboard, what do you enjoy doing for fun?
literally not being on a keyboard. So I am a get outside person as my default all year round. In the winter, I'm a snowboarder. If I can get on the mountain or at least get out with the dogs, and just completely disconnect. In the summer, hiking, backpacking, camping, etc. So that's what I like. I definitely am either analog or on a keyboard. Like those are my two ways of life, pretty much by and large. And so, yeah, I mean, those are what I got.
Yeah, I feel you there. I when I can stop looking at blue light and these screens, I like doing pretty extreme stuff. I really don't consider it extreme, but my wife and everyone else says I live a pretty extreme life. I just like four-wheel riding. I like snowboarding when I can too. Shooting. I do a lot of wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I do like competing again, professional mixed martial artist. So that's usually where you can find me. Or some people might not ever want to step in a cage, but I volunteer almost every time.
I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a few months and then moved to a place where I can't do it anymore. So hopefully looking to get back into it if my wife and if we move to a little bit of a bigger city. Definitely would love to get back into it. It was awesome. One of the best things that I did.
About to get my brown belt here soon. I've been practicing jiu-jitsu for a little bit, going on 10 years now. Took a hiatus for like 3 years, but definitely something that I find there's just so many things that are beneficial to jiu-jitsu from not only just from the self-defense perspective, but confidence. It helps out with depression, just a lot of different things. The camaraderie that the family that you really you're sweating and bleeding with,
literally
putting in the work with. But yeah, definitely awesome. I like to touch grass pretty often too. Just being outside in the sun, just because I feel like a vampire sitting under these lights sometimes. But definitely can feel that. Well, thanks, Zach. Appreciate you coming on the show again. For sharing your incredible insights as well and your experiences. It's really been a pleasure. For our listeners, if they wanted to connect with you, Zach, where can they find you online?
So I am everywhere, I think, at this point. So I'm on LinkedIn, Zakkery Gage. I'm on X at @zgage_promoted. I'm also on YouTube. I think that's Promoted Careers. Promoted is my career coaching side business as well. And then Facebook and Instagram are both Promoted Careers. So any of those platforms, I will say if people want to absorb content, I'd go YouTube or X because that kind of covers the vast majority. If you actually want to connect with me and reach out to me and ask for advice or whatever, LinkedIn's the best way to do that.
Fair enough. Hey, I didn't even realize you had the side business. Did you want to talk a little bit more about your side business at Promoted Careers? What all are you guys doing over there?
I mean, I can, yeah. So it's a side business that started as resume writing. Honestly, going back to our AI discussion, I think AI is the best resume writer out there nowadays. It just
if you're right.
So I had to shift the business really to be much more coaching focused. And so like my specialty / passion is definitely the early to mid-career professional. Going back to what we were saying earlier, the sooner that people can learn interview, negotiation, career road mapping, mindsets, accountability, all those different aspects, the longer they can take it with them and the more exponential returns they get. So my job on the career coaching side is to help people climb the ladder, which they see fit, transition. I definitely worked with a lot of people that are either stagnant, need to move careers or those sorts of things. So yeah, more on the generalist side. I can be tech focused, but most of the people I help are not tech oriented and much more general career progression and philosophy.
Fair enough. You definitely have some synergy there. I definitely want to have another conversation with you offline because I run a cybersecurity mentorship and training program where we're training people who are transitioning either from the IT space or from another career discipline like tax or insurance directly into cybersecurity after building their foundation and making sure that they understand IT in general, and then moving into their first entry level position. But as you know, it doesn't stop there. You got to figure out a way to climb the ladder.
Yeah, transition's the first part.
Because not to say it's grunt work, but you're paying your dues really at the bottom of the totem pole at first. You're doing a lot of the minutia work, and when you want to start to kind of branch out and focus on more strategy and high level impact and whatnot, you got to move up the ladder for that. And that's where we really come into play, just making sure that people aren't falling stagnant in their careers. They're fighting for their value of what they're worth, on things on those lines. And it sounds like you're doing some of the same things. So definitely would like to have we'll circle back, offline and see how we can, help each other. Definitely some synergy in our business models there.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that.
That's awesome. Well, for our listeners, if this is your first time, whatever platform that you're listening to this on, please, please, please don't forget to like and subscribe this podcast for wherever you're hearing this on, whether that be Apple Podcasts or YouTube, for more conversations with IT and security leaders like Zach. Until next time, stay safe, stay secure.